Welcome back to another amazing episode of You Make It Happen. I cannot wait for you guys to meet today's guest. This is Raimee from TikTok and Instagram. She is a travel influencer and she promotes the most amazing stuff on social media. She is truly ingenious with her ideas, tricks, tips, and advice on travel. And you guys, she's also done her work on herself. I mean, can it get any better? She's so insightful. She's so smart. She's so creative. She's just amazing. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Cannot wait. Coming at you. Okay. Thank you so much, Raimee, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time today on the You Make It Happen podcast. I am just so excited for our listeners and our viewers to get to meet you and see you and hear all about all of your travels. I know our listeners and our viewers are going to see your bio on the show notes, but can you tell our listeners and your followers just a little bit about your backstory for those who don't already know?
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you for having me. I always love talking travel and healing and all of the things. So I'm excited to get to talk to you on your show. Thanks for having me. And I guess a little intro, not to harp too long. I started traveling when I was 14 years old. I took my first international trip, fell in love for many different reasons, which we'll get into. And from that moment, kind of just decided I needed to figure out a way to make travel my life somehow. And it took me a while to actually get to the point I'm at now, where it is a bigger part of my life. And again, we can delve deeper. I worked for a big travel blogger for a couple years. I've worked in the marketing space for over 10 years now for my full-time job. I've done remote work, travel, all of the things to try and make travel a big part of my life. And I feel like over the past 2 to 3 years, that's really come to fruition in ways that I was working towards for so long, but kind of never thought would happen. So it feels really cool to be in the place I am now, able to just talk to so many more people and share my love of travel with more people. Like that has always been my goal. Because I think travel makes the world a better place, which we can also get into. And that is like the coolest thing I get to do. And yeah, that's a little bit of my story, but I'm sure we'll get into more.
No, I love that. I wholeheartedly agree. I think travel does make the world a better place. And I think travel makes people better
Yeah,
people because,
100%.
right, it just gives us so much more education. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the phrase from traveling to what, 34, 35 countries now, that there's
Yeah,
no better education than travel,
100%. I mean, I
right?
couldn't tell you anything I learned in college, but I can tell you all the things I learned from travel.
Same. I can tell you what I've learned from every country I've been to, but if you ask me
Yes.
what I learned in undergrad, I'd be like, stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I completely agree. I think if anyone has the opportunity to like take some time to educate themselves through travel, like that's the best thing you could do.
Yeah. And I know you and I talked briefly about this, but can you tell our listeners and viewers just a little bit about what travel has done as far as like healing for you?
Yeah, I think for a long time, I felt, it's kind of the classic story of feeling a little bit misunderstood. I was kind of shy growing up. I'm from Michigan, and I just always remember feeling like I didn't have the biggest group of friends. I had my core group, but I always felt a little bit misunderstood and nerdy and shy and would rather be reading Harry Potter and fantasy
Right
books
here.
than doing, the things that normal teenagers would do. I remember my senior year of high school, everyone was doing spring break in Mexico and the Bahamas, and they were all like going down to get drunk for a week and like spring break, classic spring break vibes. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. Like that just doesn't feel like me. And I always like beat myself up about not feeling the same way as other people. And for my spring break, I actually went on a European cruise with my mom because I was like, I don't want to do that. And that was my first trip to Europe. And I again had a life-changing moment of like, wow, I need to be traveling more. How can I work and travel? And so I think travel for me was healing in that way, just kind of seeing that there's so many other options for life out there. And just because I'm not resonating with what everyone's doing at home doesn't mean I'm weird. It just means like I can find myself elsewhere. And honestly, just like the confidence that travel has given me, that trip inspired me to solo travel. And I think solo travel is one of the most healing things I've done for myself because I think growing up, and for anyone really, like it's hard to have confidence when you don't know how to trust yourself and
Yes.
trust your intuition and keep promises to yourself. And I never really could figure out how I was supposed to do that. And I just remember solo travel was kind of what opened that door for me of like, you are capable of figuring things out on your own. You can make friends in a strange place. You can do these things that like I don't know, that you wouldn't think that were possible before. And I feel like getting that confidence and trust in yourself was one of the most healing things for me. And then coming back to my life, I was like, wait, I'm actually not weird. I'm really cool for the things I like and I can share that with people and people would listen to me. It was just kind of all in my head. So I do feel like travel kind of opened up myself and just the way I'm able to interact with people in the world now. I'm totally different. If you met me when I was 17 to now, I'm a completely different person. And I do think that's because of travel.
Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. I'm in the same boat, so to
Yeah,
speak, a
love
travel
it.
metaphor.
Hmm.
Like physically and metaphorically. I mean, I have done so much travel and I started traveling when I was 16
Amazing.
and I didn't like who I was. And I mean, even if you met me in my 20s, I didn't like who I was.
Mhm.
And I was a totally different person. And then I spent more time traveling and a lot of work in therapy and a lot of work on myself and a lot of trauma work and a lot of shame resilience. But I had a therapist back in 2020 who opened my eyes saying, I want you to go to new cities. I want you to go to new experiences. I want you to go try new cultures and things. And I'd already, cultivated a deep love of international travel, but I was like curious, like, why would you, as a therapist,
Yeah,
tell me to do this? And he's like, that builds shame resilience. And I'm
yeah,
like, why does exploring a new city or new foods or new places build shame resilience? He's like, getting you out of your comfort zone
totally.
builds shame resilience. And I'm like, oh, I can see that because you're somewhere unfamiliar, you're doing something you've never done, you're talking to
Mhm.
people you've never talked to, you're navigating somewhere you've never navigated, you're just somewhere uncomfortable, you're automatically building shame resilience.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way, but 100%. Like I said, I used to be a lot more shy because like, I'm afraid of if I say something, they won't like me or, whatever. And when you're traveling, you kind of don't have a choice. You have to ask people questions. You have to talk to
Yes.
people when you're solo traveling. You have to interact with the world around you.
Oh,
And
yes.
you see like, oh, even if people say no, it's not that big of a deal. Oh,
Right.
even if this person was rude to me, I'm fine. I'm resilient now. So
Yeah.
that I
I
love
lived
that. I
through
didn't
it.
even think about it like that, but that's 100% what it does for you. And it, like you said, shame and I think confidence kind of are related too, is like once you build up that trust and shame resilience, you kind of have this level of confidence that you probably didn't have before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, just a little bit about my backstory. I was like 16 and 340, 350, 350 pounds. And so
Hmm.
I was just huge and I had no self-confidence, like none whatsoever. And I started losing weight and working on myself and just being a healthier version of myself. But travel really helped build my self-confidence in a way that weight loss couldn't, because weight
Yeah.
loss is just about, your image and how you look and what you look like in the mirror, and it's not who
Mhm.
you are as a person.
Like that
Like
internal, yeah.
the
Even if
internal,
you
right?
feel healthy, it's like your mindset might not be healthy, even if your body's
Exactly.
feeling healthy. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I was at. So it sounds like you've done a lot of work on yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your trauma recovery path?
I think, yeah, man, I have like such when you asked me this before the show, I was kind of like, oh, I actually have worked through some shit. I kind of,
Yeah.
sorry if I shouldn't
Oh no,
swear.
you can swear as
Like,
much as you want. This is an explicit
but
podcast.
I'm kind of like, there's things that I kind of ignore now that I'm through it.
Yeah,
But I would love to share because I think it can help people who are currently going through it.
absolutely.
But when I was younger, when I was in high school, 16, 17, I had a pretty bad eating disorder. I mean, every girl I think kind of goes through this, but I
Yeah.
remember like my mom making me weigh myself because I was way too thin because I was just not eating. And she was like, you need to go to the doctor now. This is not okay. And like, I went through a whole journey at that age, just trying to get right in the head. And then I had a whole binge eating episode after that that I struggled with for years because, it's hard to go from one extreme and then you go to the other. And I think throughout college, my confidence was lacking because of all of that. So
Yeah.
I'd done a lot of therapy and work on myself at that age. And I think in my early 20s, I was starting to feel okay again, finding myself after all of those issues. Travel, honestly, I was traveling through all of that. And I do think that played a huge role in healing,
Yeah.
in alongside therapy and just, figuring out like who I was and what my body needed and like why none of those things I perceived to matter actually did and didn't matter.
Yes. Yes, I do
And
know.
travel helped a ton with that. Um, and I think that was kind of just like a big, yeah, healing moment for me. And then I also went through recently, maybe, during COVID, I actually struggled a lot with my mental health, as did everyone else. I kind
Which
of
doesn't
went
make your
back.
pain any less valid. Let's be
Yeah,
clear. That doesn't make your pain any less valid.
totally. And I think everyone, we didn't know what was going on with the world. And I had a pretty extreme like panic anxiety disorder for a while there.
Hmm.
And I would get panic attacks and didn't really know why. I went to therapy again during COVID to just kind of like figure this all out. And I had started traveling again towards the end of the pandemic. And I don't know if maybe you know this from my content, but I was having a really, really bad fear of flying, which for me,
Yes.
how is that going to work with my lifestyle? But I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
saw that.
the manifestation of all these other anxieties and uncertainties that really manifested themselves in flying. And I would cancel trips sometimes, like I didn't even want to go because I didn't want to get on a plane.
Yeah.
And I, at the same time, I was trying to build up my business of like being a travel creator and feeling like, how can I do this if I'm afraid to get on a plane? I know other
Right.
people struggle with this too, so I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell people what I do to get through my fear of flying, where it maybe comes from. And I actually went to this certain type of therapy called brain spotting. And
Hmm.
it's similar to EMDR, if you
Oh,
know
I
about
do. Yeah,
EMDR.
I've done EMDR. Yeah.
Amazing. So it's very similar to EMDR, which for anyone listening, it has to do with your eye movements and where you
Okay.
store trauma and how you experience and think about things in your brain. You kind of work through it with rapid eye movements. Brain spotting is not rapid eye movements, but you are basically identifying a spot in your brain where this trauma lives, and then you work through it. And so I did that specifically for my fear of flying, but of course, so many other things came up during that
Oh, yeah.
process. And I swear it is life changing. At the time, I'm a pretty big skeptic. So at the time, I was like, is this really working? Like, is this like, oh, I'm staring at a spot on the wall and I'm going to work through my trauma? Like, I
You're like,
really
what the
remember
fuck is
that.
this?
Yeah, exactly. And I can be a little bit cynical and skeptical, but I have to say, I have not, after going through that, I think I did like 10 sessions of brain spotting and worked out a bunch of stuff. I have never felt better in my life. I get excited to go on the plane now. And not even just that, but it pours over into everything else. Like I really do feel like I tapped and like repaired a little girl Raimee in my brain. And so I
Yes.
highly recommend EMDR or brain spotting. If you have to work through anything, I am a full believer now. Even though at the time I was like, and then now I look back and I'm like, wow, I feel completely different. And I think it was because of that.
I can't wholeheartedly recommend EMDR enough. I haven't done brain spotting, but it sounds like it is so worth it
Yeah,
and so related. And
totally.
EMDR is just so effective. I mean, therapy in general is so effective with the right therapist. I'm sure
Exactly.
finding a
Yes.
good therapist, I'm sure you went through the motions of trying to find a good one.
Oh yeah, I
Because,
remember my first one. Yeah, just did not really validate my experiences at all. Or
oh
actually, I feel
no.
like she would encourage me to like do the wrong thing. So it does take a minute to find the right one. My most recent one was amazing and helped me so much. So
Oh, good, good.
yeah,
And I know it can be, and I know it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's prohibitive for some people because some people just don't have access or
it
it's
is.
culturally forbidden or whatever. But in
Mm,
some places they're just not, money or actual just access to it. Like some people just
yeah,
can't get it. And I
yeah,
do a whole episode. Actually, by the time this episode airs, there's an episode 4 is how to find a good therapist, which is the
amazing.
next episode that comes out next week. So
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so everyone, stay tuned for that episode because we
yeah.
can hopefully help you find one that doesn't break the bank and is accessible.
Yes, yes. Well, by the time our episode airs, it will have been before our
Oh, it'll
episode.
be
So
before. Okay, so go
yeah.
back.
So go back and listen to it. So
Cool.
definitely go back and listen to it because I think it's a really valuable episode. And it was actually by listener request. I had listener requests like, okay, we hear you. Like, we know that therapy is important. We know
How
that
to
we need
do
a
it.
good therapist. How the
Mhm.
fuck do we find a good therapist? And I'm
Yeah,
like, you know what? That's a really good question. And I actually have a lot of resources on that. So
amazing.
let me share them with you. Let me share my tips with you. And I always do travel tips in every episode because I think travel and trauma go together like this.
I totally agree. That's so cool. I mean, I'll have to go listen to that episode too if I ever need it, and I'll send it around to people who ask about that.
I would love that. I would love that. I will send you the link for it. Right
Cool.
now, it's just one episodes 1 through 3 are released, and episode 4 comes out next week. So it's
Love it.
still a pretty new podcast.
I love it. It's awesome. I love podcasts. I used to do
Same.
podcast production for my full-time job, so
I love that. What
yeah.
podcast did you produce?
It was called, well, I did a few actually. The biggest one I produced is called Growing Up with Devin. There's probably
Oh
like,
yeah, I saw that in your
yeah,
comments in your
yeah,
bio.
probably like 60 episodes. We didn't cancel the show. It's just on a break right now because
Okay.
our host is out traveling actually.
Can't blame him.
But yeah, it's a great show. It's all kind of related to like healing, trauma, becoming a better person. We have episodes on so many different things, but yeah, it's a great.
Yeah.
uh,
I love that. I love that. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but it sounds like you really developed your sense of identity, like your sense of self, who you are through travel, not just your self-confidence, which it sounds like it's skyrocketed. And I know it has for me too. My self-confidence skyrocketed from travel. I was like, oh
I
my
still
God, I
have
can do this.
sometimes. We still have sometimes where I'm like, oh, I suck. The voice comes
Oh
back,
yeah.
but overall, yeah,
That inner critic that says, the fuck are
yeah,
you doing? You can't do this. And I'm like, wait a
yep,
minute. No, no, no. I
yeah,
recognize you. You pipe
yeah,
down. Like,
exactly.
we're gonna have a conversation and I'm gonna tell you what I think, and you're not the
Yes,
one in charge anymore.
yes, 100%.
Yes. And so, yeah, now I've done so much work now that I can recognize that inner critic voice and be like, hey, I heard you saying the shame gremlins. Brene Brown calls them shame gremlins. And I'm like,
Mhm.
the shame gremlins saying, you suck, you're not good enough. And I'm like, the fuck, I'm not.
Yes, talk back to them, same. Or I literally go like, Control Alt Delete, get out of my brain. I will say that out
Totally.
loud sometimes. If I'm in a spiral of sorts, it's just, and my therapist taught me this thing too, where I will envision just like a stop sign right in front of my face and like the color,
Yes.
what it says, what it feels like right in front of my face to stop those types of thoughts. And that works really
Yes.
well.
Yes. The automatic negative thoughts. My therapist actually trained me to do the same thing. Envision the stop
Amazing.
sign
Oh,
right in front
amazing.
of your face. That must be a really good therapist technique
Yes.
because
It
I've only had
works.
good therapists
Sounds
suggest
crazy, but
that.
it works.
It
Yeah.
does work. They envision that big stop sign and imagine stop, and then yell. Sometimes I'll yell it to myself, like yell
Yes.
stop, stop thinking that.
Same. No, it really works. I tell people too, especially when I'm talking about the fear of flying thing and people ask like, "Oh, how did you get over it?" That's the biggest thing for me because I will spiral, anxious thoughts about flying, but if I
Yeah,
can just cut it off, yeah.
exactly. Exactly. I love that. Thank you. What does self-love look like in like your daily life practice for you?
Okay, I love this question too because I think about this a lot because I'm not what's the word? I don't do a lot of like beauty routines or anything like that to practice self-love. For me, self-love is really recognizing when I need a break. For me,
Good
that is the
job.
biggest thing. I have no shame laying on the couch and couch rotting for a day because I know that that's what I need to recharge for the week ahead. And I
Yes.
think recognizing when you do need to take a step back is such a like underrated self-love thing that you can do. And I have people
Yes.
ask me a lot, how do you work a full-time job and do content creation and travel and do all these things? And it's like I don't overextend myself. It might look like I am, but I really, really don't because I'm not going to push myself that far because I love myself. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to push myself to burnout. And
Good.
sometimes I feel like sometimes you hear these stories of entrepreneurs who are like, I hustled so hard and built this business and then I got burnt out. And sometimes I'm like, oh, am I not going to be super successful because I won't allow myself to push myself that hard?
Not at all. You'll be the opposite.
I hope so, because that sometimes you hear like I really had to struggle to get here, and I'm like, I'm definitely like pushing myself, but I'm not going to go that far because I don't want to do that to myself.
Well, no, and I think, I mean, I don't know if it's a quote or who said it, but those who take care of themselves are better to take care of others. And it's the same for business, it's the same for travel, it's the same for anything. Like if you want to be successful in business, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're going to burn
How can you
out,
serve your audience, your customers, your clients? Like, yeah, exactly.
right. How can you serve your followers if you decide to
Hmm.
take a 6 month break or a 2 year break because your
Yeah,
mental health, demanded that you sign
yeah,
off for 2 years? Like where versus if you sign off for a day or 2 weeks or
yeah,
take a vacation and you're doing self-care and you're taking care of yourself and you're loving yourself and you're spending that time on a regular basis, or if you take 2 hours a day or 20 minutes a day or whatever you
totally.
need.
Go out for a walk. It totally like
Yes.
grounding too, I think is so underrated. Like just
Yes.
literally people say touch grass, but actually when you go outside and put your feet on the ground and it really, really takes so much pressure off all of this technology that we're surrounded by all the time. So
It
that,
does.
that is a self-love practice to me. Just go take a walk.
Yes, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to like be driven from point A to point B. Just saunter along and see how the wind is moving the trees, or
Yes.
see which way the sun is reflecting on that building, or whatever is around you. Just notice the things, just a mindful walk where you're present in the moment and you are grounding yourself like
Yeah.
in that moment, which
And
is
leave your
just
phone. Leave your phone at home.
leave
Just
your
go.
phone at home. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love that. Thank you. That is so, and I am so impressed that you have figured this out at such a young age, and you're so
Young
impressive.
age, how old do you think I am?
I mean, you look like you're in your 20s. I assume you're in your 20s.
I'm about to turn 30 in 2 weeks.
Oh no.
I know. Yeah, I'm excited. I think 30, flirty, thriving, like I'm ready. I think, yeah, 20s were fun, but I feel like 30s is when you really come into all of the learnings that I had
It
from my 20s.
absolutely is. It absolutely is. The 30s are when you're like, "Oh, wait, I was just learning shit in my 20s."
Yes. Yeah, I'm super excited.
In my opinion. 30s are the best. I spent my 30s and then I hit the end of my 30s and that's when I went through like my identity crisis and my like, oh, I need to get in therapy. I don't know who I am or what I want or what I want to do with my life. I had
Hmm.
discovered travel and I had boosted my self-confidence, but I found myself like spiraling. I worked in law enforcement for 16
Oh,
years
wow.
and then
That's
I left to like be
trauma in
happy,
itself.
secondhand trauma
Yeah.
up the you can only imagine the level of secondhand trauma involved in that. Anyway, I'll get off on ADHD squirrel path and I'll get
No, I love Squirrel Path.
right back to where we were. Okay. Doing a little bit of a diversion here. And this is it, you may or may not be comfortable answering this because it's not a paid advertisement. Do
No
you want to
worries.
talk about any travel brands that you've used for carry-on, what you use,
Oh, 100%.
why? Is that
Yes.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about, I mean, okay, this is funny because I technically am an influencer and a content creator, and people, even if I post something I like, people now assume it's an ad. And I'm like, no, no, it's really not. I genuinely like this. And I do not accept every brand deal that I get because
Okay,
I am
good.
genuinely only talking about the things I like. My favorite carry-on right now is my Away trunk suitcase. It's carry-on. It's aluminum.
I knew
It's in
it.
all my videos.
I
Yes.
knew it. I saw it in your videos and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure that's the Away aluminum. And
Yes.
I am totally going to get that
I
one
love it.
because I found it 30% off.
Oh, I love it. I love the way that it closes. I'm obsessed. And I've never worked with Away. Hey, Away, like let's work together.
I emailed
Um,
them. Maybe we
but
can work together in like
yeah,
in a circle like thing. Like
yeah.
Raimee and Missy, like we need Away deals.
Some
So
kind of, I know, I will promote that bag all day. I love it. I also really love Monos, and I have worked with them, not on a paid deal. They've sent me stuff before, but
okay.
I love their products. Their backpack also is in every single video of me. It's my tan leather backpack. It's the
That's a
Monos.
Monos backpack. Okay.
Yeah, Monos Metro backpack. I love it. I actually have it in two colors. I bought one myself, and they sent me one because I love it
Okay.
so much. And then I also have one of their carry-ons, which I love, and I switch out my Away for the Monos when I need something a little bit bigger as a carry-on because my
Okay.
Monos carry-on is a little bit bigger, and I really love that it's the Carry-On Pro Plus is my Monos bag. And I really like, those are definitely my top two faves.
Love it. For the Carry-On Pro Plus, do you use that strictly within the United States or can you travel
I
internationally with that?
So I travel with it internationally. I do, okay. I know that there's baggage restrictions, and if you follow Riley J. Smith, do you know Riley? She does like
Um,
packing videos. Okay, everyone should follow her because she has the best packing guides and videos, and she has a
Love
breakdown
it.
the requirements from airlines versus the size of bags.
Okay.
And the Monos Carry-On Pro Plus, I think, is a little bit bigger than the requirements, but it always fits in the overhead bin for me. I've never had an issue.
Okay.
So yeah, but I don't take it if I'm just flying like a short domestic flight. I don't take it because that's when the bin space is smaller. So I
Yeah.
do mostly use it for, yeah,
Okay.
internet.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. I will follow Riley. I love packing tips. Oh, that reminds me, another like ADHD connection in my brain. Of the one of the few things that I haven't seen in your videos that I was like, oh my God, I think I can actually give Raimee a travel tip. I cannot
Yeah.
believe this. I love and have adapted and use every time I travel now the vacuum compression travel bags.
I've been wanting to try these so bad. I know that it would help me so much. Do you have the one that the portable like suction thing is small enough that you pack it
I've
away with
tried
you?
those and I don't like them as much
Okay.
because you have to take the little vacuum thing with you and it takes
That's
up
what I was
space.
wondering. Okay, so you just do the compression.
Yes.
Okay, so no suction, just compression.
No suction, just compression. And they
Okay.
have the slide, like a Ziploc type thing on top.
Yes.
And what I do is, I mean, some people roll them, but I just lay on top of it, squish it,
Yep,
and
get all the air out.
it gets all the air out, and then I
Ah.
seal it, and it's less than half of the original size of my clothes.
Okay, I need to. Do you have Amazon storefront link?
Yes, I will send it to you. I'll send
Okay,
it to you. It's
I
awesome.
definitely need to do that. People have been asking me to make a carry-on packing video, and the reason I've been resisting is because I do not have a method to my madness. To
And
be
that's
honest,
okay.
I just like throw everything in. I plan my outfits, and I do a lot of neutral colors that I know will mix and match, and then I shove it in, stand on top of my suitcase, and like jam it in
I
there.
saw that. I saw
But
that. I thought that was
I think this
awesome.
might help me, so I'm gonna try that, and I can probably
I think
fit
this will
more.
help a lot because
Yeah.
it takes what my clothes are and like subtracts three quarters.
Oh, that's
Like
gonna be amazing. I do need to do that. Okay, I'm
it
gonna
saves a shit ton of space. And I
next
mean,
trip.
they're fairly cheap. The only downside is they do wear out. And so
Yeah,
you can use them like
that's fine.
5, 6 times, but they're cheap.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they're
So,
cheap. I'm going on a 3-week trip at the end of September, and I
yes.
am going to be trying to do that all in a carry-on. No, I need to do it all in a carry-on, just the way that the trip is. So this will be perfect.
Where are you going to go?
I'm doing Tahiti for a week and then New Zealand, and they're going to be completely different climates. So that again, like New Zealand's going to be their spring, it's going to be a lot chillier, and Tahiti is going to be very warm. So
Yes.
we're going to figure it out, but I'm going to order these, and I think that'll help.
I'll send you the link. Have you been to Tahiti or New Zealand before?
No, it's going to be 2 new places for me. I'm so excited. I haven't been to
That
a new country in a while, so
That's super exciting. I
yeah,
am so excited. I have been to Tahiti, but not New Zealand. And I
amazing.
am actually traveling in the next 6 weeks to really interesting destination that I never thought I'd be able to afford to get to, which is the Galapagos Islands.
No way. I've been looking at going
Yes,
there. Oh, you're gonna have to give me all the tips. I'm so excited for you.
I absolutely will. I will share everything.
That's so
Um,
cool. I've been thinking about going maybe spring next year. But same, it's kind of expensive to get to. So you should do an episode on that.
I will. I absolutely will. I plan on recording, maybe not while I'm out there because I don't want to drag my microphone with me,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'll record videos and teasers and stuff while I'm out there. What are your top 3 destinations that you haven't visited yet?
Ooh, okay. Well, New Zealand is number one, so I am checking that one off
Yes.
soon. I cannot wait. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I feel like it's going to be my fantasy world dreams come true.
I think it
So
will.
I'm very stoked about that. But let's see, places. Okay, places that I haven't planned a trip to yet. I really want to do Turkey. Turkey.
Oh,
How would you say
yeah.
it? I really want to do Turkey. I've never been. I've heard such great things. I
Same.
also really I don't know if this is a hot take, but I really want to do like an in-depth China trip. I
Oh,
think that the history there is so fascinating and they have such interesting landscapes and obviously China's just huge. I really would want to go on like a very intense guided tour, I think. I just
Yes.
think it would be really interesting. Also, I love Chinese food. Yeah, I
Same.
think that
Dim
would be
sum.
challenging. Yeah, I think it would be a challenging trip, but I really am interested in doing that at some point. And then third, where else do I want to go? I want to go somewhere else in Africa that I haven't been. Maybe Tanzania and then
Oh,
Zanzibar. I would love to do that. Yeah.
yes. Those are gorgeous destinations. I
Yeah.
haven't been anywhere in Africa. Africa is still on my list of places to go to. I've only been to 24 countries, but I am
Only
hoping
that's a
to add to
lot.
that list.
That is a lot. You know what? We get so lost in the sauce in the travel community. Like
It's true.
my friends at home are like, what? They're like, I've been to three. Even then, people in the United States, half of us don't even have passports. So
It's true. It's true. There's a lot of people that have never
um,
been anywhere and they're like, "Oh my God, you've been to 24 countries?"
yeah,
I
that's a
haven't I haven't
lot.
I haven't been to 24 counties.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's funny because I think, yeah, I've been to more countries than states, which is
Same.
like why, but yeah, makes sense.
I've been to way more countries than states. And the more states that I've been to, the more I'm like, I'd rather go see countries.
I know. And it's cheaper sometimes too. Like domestic
Cheaper.
travel for some reason is so expensive.
Yes, I love, well, and I love all your travel tips. And I love that you give people the real when you're like, hey, look on Google Flights and
Yes.
search by what's
What's cheapest?
cheapest. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
don't look by like exactly what time. If you can be flexible with your dates, if you
Yeah.
can't, then look in this month and then
Yeah.
look as to where you want to go. Look in general to see what is most affordable. That's how I found the tickets to the Galapagos because I was like,
Amazing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll never be able to afford to get there. It's thousands of dollars to get
And
to
then you found, yeah.
Ecuador, and I
Mhm.
found round trip airfare to Ecuador for $500.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. See, that's the kind of thing is like right now as it's ending, we're kind of in the last quarter of the year of 2024.
Yeah.
Think about for everyone listening, like think about what are the goal places you want to go. Don't think about when you need to go, whatever. Go on Google Flights now, look at the map and click around for 2025. See where you can find, because there will be a ticket, and then you can backtrack and figure out, okay, how can I make that timeline work with my work schedule or whatever it is. I know everyone has different jobs and like teachers only get certain weeks off, and you know,
Yes.
but there's got to be a place you can go that you find cheap now if you start thinking about it and just open your mind to like many different possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. If you
Yeah.
could give listeners of all ages, this is supposed to be an adult podcast, so let's hopefully that's adults listening.
Yeah.
One piece of free advice as it relates to self-love and travel, what would it be?
Ooh, okay. I really think going back to what I said about building confidence by keeping promises to yourself, I can expand on that a little bit more because I really think this is the most important thing any age can do. And I wish I had done this younger.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I feel like when I was younger, I used to break a lot of promises to myself, to my friends. I would be a little bit flaky because of whatever mental turmoil I was going through. I would say I was going to go hang out with my friends and then I'd cancel last minute, or I'd tell myself, "Oh, I'm going to go work out and be healthy." And then I wouldn't do it. And that is a cycle to make you feel like shit. Honestly, at the end of the day, if
Yeah.
you're not just, and it doesn't matter what the promise is. It could literally be, oh, today I'm going to make myself a cup of tea in the morning. That small little promise that you keep to yourself builds and builds and builds. And then eventually that promise becomes, I'm going to work for an hour on my business today. You do that. And slowly you start building the life that you want because you're keeping that promise to your future self. And I think that is so important and underrated. And it sounds easy, but it is hard. Like I'm not gonna say it's not, because we can be like, well, I don't feel like that today. So I'm just gonna push it off until tomorrow. But then you're gonna get in that downward cycle loop. And I've been there and I don't ever want to go back there now that I know the other side. I fall off from time
Yes.
to time and don't keep every promise to myself, but as long as you can start somewhere really, really small and build on that, that is self-love. And also that's going to allow you to travel whatever your travel goal is. Maybe you don't have the money right now or you don't know where to start. Like if you can break down that overall goal into these tiny promises, that's what's going to get you to accomplish whatever your travel goal is or whatever goal you have. So
Yes, absolutely.
that
No, that is perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much. What piece of art, movie, show, or any creative work really was incredibly influential for you and why?
Oh, girl. Do you know my other passion is, well, film one and also books. So
Ah, I love this.
I'm gonna give a film and a book for this.
You can give
Book,
10. I love it.
yeah, book that I think everyone should read, especially if you're into travel, is The Alchemist. I know that's a cliche answer,
Oh,
but
it's such a good book.
I reread it every single year because one, my memory is terrible, but two, I get something new out of it every single time. And I just think
Yes.
it's so poetic and it just makes you really think about the true meaning of life. And I think we all need that reminder sometimes. It's also such a small
Yes.
book. You can get through it pretty quickly, but it's so impactful. I remember the first time I read it, I felt so seen. And I felt
Yes.
like I could understand life a little bit better.
Have you
So
heard the audiobook version of it with Jeremy Irons reading it?
no, but that's okay. That's my reread for this year. Okay, perfect.
So good. It's so
Okay,
good. He reads it and his voice is so I mean, he's an actor, of course, and he's
yeah.
a what, an Academy Award winning actor, I think.
Oh, amazing.
And he just does a phenomenal job and he does voices and he does such deep inflection and tone and
Okay, I'm
it's just
so excited.
it's
Okay, that's
wonderful.
perfect. Yeah, because I have not done my reread this year, so I will do it on audio and I'll probably get something totally different out of it. Okay,
Yeah.
that is so exciting. For film, okay, a film. Oh my gosh, I have so many. Okay, I'm gonna maybe give three films that are deeply profound and impactful for me. One is one that I saw recently last year. It was up for an Academy Award, Past Lives. Have you seen that?
I haven't. Is it worth
Okay,
it?
it's so good. It's a Korean film. It's a romantic love story. I think it just spoke to me in a sense of just how life like life is fleeting. We make these decisions that can impact the rest of our lives, and that's okay because you do give up on other things by making certain choices. By making one choice, you are giving up on a lot of other choices. And I
Yeah.
think recognizing that is totally okay. And almost mourning the other possibilities of your life is okay. And that's what this movie is kind of all about, or at least what I took from it.
Yeah.
And it's so well acted, it's so beautifully shot. It's just a really great film. Highly recommend that one. Another one, actually, similar message, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see that movie?
Yes, that was excellent.
Similar message, just about all the possibilities of life and how you end up where you are based on your decisions and all these possibilities that you could have had. Actually, wow, similar concept. Obviously, I love these like existential questions about life and reflecting on your own life and making sure that you are making the decision that will get you to where you want to be, or even if it's where you think you want to be, like I think you'll end up where you're supposed to be. um
Yes.
and then a third really random one is also a foreign film. It's called The Worst Person in the World. It's
I
a
don't know it.
Danish or Norwegian film. I can't remember which one. It's one of those. But it's a really good foreign film. It's kind of
Okay.
depressing, but I love kind of depressing movies. So
Same.
yeah.
There, I mean, my so this is not a fact I've discussed on the podcast yet, but I am more than willing to share it. My favorite movie is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh my God, I just watched it again for like the third time. Love, 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 love that movie.
I mean, I know it's depressing, but
Yeah,
it's such a good
so
movie.
good.
It is so psychologically stimulating. It's such a good psychological thriller, and it
Yeah,
is such a good story about like, the bad guy getting discovered after so much time
yeah.
and getting their justice, right?
hmm It's so
Yeah.
good. And the relationship between him and her, Michael, I think is his name, the main Daniel Craig
Oh,
and Rooney
Mikael.
Mara,
Yeah.
their relationship and it was so sad at the end when like she kind of fell for him and
Yes.
he kind of just went back to that married woman that he was having an affair with and she kind of was just like, well, F it. Like I'm gonna go do my thing. But I felt for her because she finally had opened up herself to someone and he
No.
kind of was just typical
He was,
man.
yeah, blowing her off. And she was,
Yeah,
and I mean, in his defense, she never said anything.
she didn't, and she was
She didn't go up to
young,
him. Yeah.
and it was like a thing. But I love that too because that's just so life.
It was more realistic, and I liked the
Yeah,
ending. It wasn't some happy ending like, oh, and then they get
yeah.
married and live happily ever after.
No,
I was
it
like,
was
no, because that's
real.
bullshit. It was real.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
real. It was like he's off with his mistress.
Yep.
He's off fucking her on the
Yep.
side and he's not
Yep.
paying attention to you.
I know. I know. I literally just watched that again 2 weeks ago. It's such a good movie.
It is such a good movie. I wholeheartedly agree. Okay. I
Yeah.
love that answer. Thank you so much. What do
Yeah.
you do to decompress?
Ooh, couch rot day. Like that, just
Yes.
be horizontal and watch movies because if I didn't have a travel account, I would have a account discussing movies. That's why I got so excited I could talk about them forever. But yeah, I
I
will
love
just
it.
watch movies, shows all day, decompress, get or read. I love reading fantasy novels. Like that is the best way for me to decompress. I love being in another world.
I love that. I mean, I am a nerd by definition.
Yeah.
I host trivia because I love movies and trivia and general
Love it.
nerdiness. So I host
Mm-hmm.
trivia like in person Thursdays.
Oh, that's
It,
so
it
fun. Where are you
yeah.
based?
I'm based in Seattle, and so I host trivia in
Cool.
Tacoma, which is the Seattle Tacoma
Yeah.
area at Doyle's in
Cool.
Tacoma on Thursday nights, and it's so
Oh,
much fun.
okay. If I'm
It's a lot
ever
of
in
fun.
Seattle on a Thursday, I'm coming.
Definitely, definitely.
That's
It's a good
awesome.
time. I actually a professional host for Geeks Who Drink Trivia, which is a national company. So
Cool.
they do trivia all over. I'm sure they have trivia in LA, but it's not as
Yeah,
cool because I'm not there. So
exactly. I need you to be there. That's so fun. I love that. I love trivia too.
it's super fun. I mean, I know I'm super nerdy and I don't care. I have such a
No,
good time
that's
doing it.
see, that is the best way to be. Like now I'm confident in my nerdiness too, and I think it's cool.
Same, same. And I
Yeah.
mean, look, you get massive success out of it. And I mean, my podcast is growing.
Yes,
Your influencer business is skyrocketing. I mean, this is just being
exactly.
yourself, showing up authentically as yourself, which is hard
Mm-hmm.
because you're being vulnerable, because you're being
Yes.
seen and you're
Mm-hmm.
opening yourself up to hurt and rejection.
Yep.
But it's so much more I mean, it's so much more courageous and vulnerable, but it's worth it, right?
A
Because
hundred
the
percent.
payoffs are so much better.
Yeah. I never really knew what the whole be yourself advice was for the longest time. You grow up hearing that. And I think when you don't, explore what it means to be yourself, that advice is confusing because you're like, well,
Yes.
what do you mean be myself? Yeah, I'm doing that. But it
Right.
ties back into what we were talking about with travel, figuring yourself out, trusting yourself, building confidence. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's why people say that advice because it is so true. Once you know
Right.
who it is you want to be and who yourself is, that all makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
like what you stand for, what your values are. And then
Yes.
otherwise, I think there's so many people that just are going through the motions in life that have no idea
Mm-hmm.
who they truly are at their core.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I've asked people on dates before, like, hey, what are your values? And they have no idea.
They don't know.
They
Oh,
don't know. And I'm like,
that's
oh,
saving you time though.
honey.
You're like, okay, bye.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it totally saves
Yeah.
me time. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
honey,
Yeah.
contact me when you've done some work.
Yeah. Go to therapy for a year and then we'll talk.
And then we'll talk. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
what is the last self-improvement and or trauma book or show you read or saw and highly recommend?
Ooh, self-improvement book or show. I read this book called Do the Work by
Ooh, I've read that.
do you know you read it?
Yes.
Yes,
I
by
can look it up.
Nicole, she's
Per
the
Perla.
holistic
Pura?
psychologist on Instagram, the holistic psychologist.
Yes.
And I've loved her work for a long time. I think the topics that she covered typically like it was the first time I was seeing the topics that she was talking about being covered in such a public, vulnerable way, like talking about family traumas and like relationship traumas and all this stuff that's like taboo to talk about. And
Yes.
I read her book because I've always liked her content. And I think it was just a really great way to actually start the process of like, what does do the work on yourself mean? And that book was really helpful for me just figuring out, yeah, what is the work I need to do. I think after I read that is when I went to therapy to do brain spotting and all of that stuff. So yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, that was a good book. I read that one. I've read a shit ton.
Yeah.
I
What's
haven't
one of
read
your
nearly enough.
favorites?
Oh gosh, one of my favorites is I have so many. So many. It depends on where people are at on their healing timeline.
Yeah.
I generally recommend like The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene
Ooh.
Brown.
Okay.
I
Never
think
read it, but I love Brene, so I should read that.
I think all of her work is incredibly moving,
Yeah.
revelational, influential. Like all of her work is excellent. But I think that's like a really good place to start if you haven't
Mm-hmm.
like read any of her work.
Cool.
Daring Greatly is just it's such an easy read and it's so relatable and
Love
it's
that.
motivational, I think, in my
Okay, I'm
opinion.
gonna get that next, maybe. Even though, yeah, like I love her stuff when I hear her speak. I've actually never read any work by her, so maybe that's my sign.
Yeah, her work is excellent. And like if you want something that's more on a relaxing sort of like downtime kind of day, she has a Netflix special, The Call to Courage.
Oh, I've heard of that. Okay, cool.
Yep.
That's my next brain rot or couch rot day.
It's a good couch ride day. And she also has an
Yeah.
HBO special.
Oh,
She has an
love.
HBO special, Atlas of the Heart. I would start with the Netflix one. It's shorter
Okay.
and it's uh an easier segue into her work, whereas the Atlas of the Heart is more it's not like it's more difficult, it's just a longer
Mm-hmm.
series and it's like a
Cool.
5-part series.
Cool. Okay, more of a time commitment. Okay.
It's more of a time commitment, yeah.
Love that though. I will definitely have to check out both.
Perfect. What movie
Okay.
or book are you currently recommending to anybody who will listen?
Oh, okay. What did I just recently watch? Watched a lot of movies recently. I'm trying to think of one that's more like profound, I guess, but
Oh, even trash TV, like anything
even
that you're
trash
like,
TV.
everybody should
Okay.
watch this.
Okay. I'm currently rewatching Sex and the City for like the fifth time, but
I love that show.
I love that show. What is I'm trying to think. I feel like there hasn't been like a TV show that I was really wowed by in a while. Do you have any that come to mind? I'm trying to
Let's
think
see
of.
here. Movie or TV show that anybody will listen. Ted Lasso, I think, is
Oh, I
probably my
love that
favorite.
show. It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
wholesome.
Right. And it's a show about like real life and mental health and struggles.
Oh, I just came up with my answer. That made me think of
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fleabag, best show of all time. I love Fleabag. I know it's older, but I think everybody should watch it. I think it's a requirement that if you are going to date me or be with me, you need to watch that show. Just because again, it just is about life. It's funny,
Yeah.
but it's about life and about some of the tragedies in life and how to get through it and just oh my gosh, I need to rewatch it again. I've watched it twice. I need to rewatch it again. But I think everyone should watch Fleabag.
I think I got through the first season, so I'm gonna have to watch the second season
The
of that.
second season is even better. Oh my
Is
gosh, you're
it?
in
It's
for
even
it. Yeah.
better? Okay.
Yes. The
All right.
second
I'll be
season
watching that
is
this
like,
weekend.
yeah, it's so good.
That'll be my couch rat day this weekend because I do the same thing. I usually
Yeah.
have one day a week. Sometimes it's every 2 weeks, depending on, the schedule and what's happening and too much shit that I've committed to.
Yes. Totally.
But
Same.
usually it's at least one day every 2 weeks that I will spend like relaxing, decompressing, watching movies, TV, and just taking my time for my
The
mental
best.
health. Right.
Hmm.
Because I'm
It's
like,
necessary.
I know that this is what helps me just re-energize. Like I'm
Yeah.
introverted internally, like at heart, I'm an
Yes.
introvert. Even though I'm super outgoing,
Same.
I
I need
still,
time to recharge. Like I get
yes.
charged by being alone, not by being with other people, even though I can. Yeah.
Exactly. Even though I can't, like, even though you and I are both actually super outgoing and we can people
Hmm.
all day long, then I need time to recharge at the end of the day.
Yes. Yes. Speaking
Okay.
my language.
And we already went over what's the top of your travel and bucket and wish list, so we'll skip over that one.
Yeah.
What's the best travel story you've ever heard, or your best travel story?
Oh, my best travel story. Okay, I tell this one a lot, but these are new listeners. So this is my
Yes.
favorite travel story that has ever happened to me. The first time I visited Iceland in 2016, I landed at 5 a.m. with one of my friends. We had no idea what we were doing. We just found a cheap flight, $200, Detroit to
Ooh,
Iceland. So we were like, oh, we don't know anything about
yes.
this. Let's go. We land at 5 a.m. We rent our car, driving to the city, and our car breaks down. And
Shit.
we obviously nothing is open. We have no idea what to do. Our phones don't work because we were just planning to connect to Wi-Fi everywhere. This was before eSIMs were a thing. We had no service. So we're freaking out like, okay, what do we do? Do we walk back like miles to the car rental place? I guess so. So we start walking down the road and a car starts driving towards us and we're like flagging it down, like maybe they can help us.
Yeah.
And to our surprise, they actually do pull over and it's a young couple from Canada who also just landed. And they were asking us, okay, where do you need to go? We'll help you out. And we were on our way to the Blue Lagoon because we had an early morning reservation there. So we were like, crap, we're going to miss that. It was so expensive. That was the one thing we splurged on. We're going to miss it. And they were like, oh, actually, we're headed there for our appointment right now, too. Do you want to just come with us?
we'll drive you back to your car after. You guys will figure that out. So we go with them and have the best time. We clicked with them right away. We end up just saying, you know what? Let's call the car rental place. They can go get the car. We don't want it anymore. Let's just travel around Iceland with you guys. And we did. We traveled the whole country with them, had the best week, all hanging out. They were also leaving the same day as us. So it just really serendipitously worked out. And to this day, I'm still really great friends with them. They just visited me in LA like 3 weeks ago. They're still together. Like it's just my favorite thing ever. They're such a great couple, and they literally saved us and made our Iceland trip amazing. And that's probably why I love Iceland so much, partly because of that story and everything we got to do with them. And that's why I love
I
travel
love
too.
that.
Like people are awesome.
People can be, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, it brings me back to your book recommendation, like The Alchemist. It's like
Yeah.
the universe conspires to help you when you're on your path,
Yes, exactly. And it totally didn't.
right?
It felt like one of those things like was meant to be. This was meant to be.
Yes, that's happened to me too, where I think like, oh shit, this went wrong and I missed this flight or missed this train or
Yeah.
whatever. And then I met this person and I was like, and they were like, here, let me take you to your hotel. And now we're friends and now we're going to do stuff.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a minute. Actually, this was good that my rental car didn't work out.
Yes,
And
exactly. It's
yeah.
so fun when stuff like that happens in life. Those are the things that make me feel that there is some sort of bigger power. You know, sometimes I, again, can be
Yes.
cynical, but then stuff like that, I'm like, wow, yeah, that was meant to be. That really was.
Right? Yes, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another reason I love that book because it just
Mm-hmm.
reaffirms that what is meant to be will be, and the
Yep.
universe will conspire to help you when you're on your path. And when you're
Yes,
traveling, we are on our path.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I love it so much.
same. What is the most useful travel purchase or items? And I know this is probably a long list, but couple top few you have ever
Yes.
made.
Okay, AirFly, which is the Bluetooth connector to the plane entertainment system so you can use your own headphones. Some planes are actually getting Bluetooth now, which is awesome, but not all of them have it. And I just always travel with my AirFly and I love it because I can use my own headphones with watching the movies.
Same.
So useful. Also my carry-on bags, obviously. What else? I think I also recently got this. I don't know how people feel about these, like those travel pillow things. I never thought that they would be useful to me, but I recently got one of I think it's a turtle one where you just like rest your neck on it. And
Yeah,
I actually slept on the plane for the first time, literally ever. I never can sleep on planes unless
really.
I'm in business class. Which also brings me to travel rewards, credit cards, best travel purchase investment ever. I mean, I'm just spending the money I'd already spent, but using points and miles is like how I'm able to travel so much. So
In
that
business
comes to
class,
mind.
yes. Yeah, I saw a
Mm-hmm.
couple of your videos in business class and I'm like writing shit down. I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh,
Yes.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
now
I
I'm
know. I
gonna
got to make more. I haven't
transfer
made one in a
points.
while.
I'm like, transfer points, transfer partner airlines. No, I got it, I got
Yes,
it, I
the
got it.
transferring is the key. It's so learning about that and just like figuring it out and figuring out how to make my finances work with it and not against me with that is just, it's opened so many more travel possibilities for me. And yeah, I love talking about that too.
I think that's amazing. I am so excited to get to figure that out and navigate it. I'm like, business class sounds pretty fucking good because
Oh, it's so, you will never, oh
yeah.
my gosh, it's hard to go back once you experience it.
I have never been able to sleep on a plane more than 20, 30 minutes. I mean, it's just so
Yeah,
uncomfortable. So I
it's
will
so
try that
hard.
turtle. Turtle thing is
Yeah, some
actually he
people don't
slept.
like it. I found it to work for me. Some people swear by it, and so I tried it, and I was surprised that I literally woke up as we were descending, and I on an 8 hour flight. I was like, "What just happened?" Like that's never ever happened to me
Wow.
before. So yeah,
Okay, it's worth it. I'll buy one just
yeah,
to try it. Okay.
yeah.
All right. The foodie in me has to
Free
know.
ad right there. Turtle, you want to work together?
I think you and I should make a packing video. We should
I
make a packing
know
video together because I
that
just
would
bought the
be.
Away
Oh
aluminum
yes,
carry-on.
that would be amazing.
And I emailed Away and I'm like, my podcast is too new for this, but I emailed them and I was like, hey, do you want to like
Honestly,
support a
getting out there
podcaster?
early is great because people will remember you. And I always tell people like follow up, follow up, follow up. You're not annoying.
Yeah.
They'll contact you when they have something, but I'm all about the follow up.
I figured, I mean, worst case scenario, they can ignore me or say no. I'm
Exactly.
like
That's
your
the
stance
worst
on cold
case.
outreach that I
Yeah.
saw your video on cold outreach. It was like, I mean, what am I gonna do? Worst case, I'm gonna get
Yes.
rejected. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't care. That's
Exactly.
already the
It's like the
case.
shame resilience. And maybe before in the past you wouldn't have done that, but now it's kind of like, yeah, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. Now I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
All right. The foodie in me has to know what is for dinner tonight.
Oh, girl, I was just thinking about that because I am really hungry right now and I really would like dinner already. I think I'm in the mood for Mexican food. I'm actually going to Paris tomorrow. And one thing I always crave in Europe is Mexican food. So I'm just going to beat my craving and have Mexican food tonight. And I'm probably going to go across the street. There's this cute little place called Paco's, and I'm going to get a steak quesadilla and some rice, and it's going to be great.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, definitely better
Yeah.
Mexican food in LA than in Paris on
Oh,
average.
yeah, exactly. And I always feel like it just doesn't hit the same in Europe, even if they have a Mexican place. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna do that tonight.
Well, and they're kind of hard to find. Like I did look. I was like
Yeah, it
trying
is.
trying to
It's
look up
not
Mexican places. I was like, oh, you guys don't have any.
exactly.
What couple of songs or four songs would best describe you to somebody who doesn't know you?
Oh, songs. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, the basic girl in me would have to say something Taylor Swift, probably You're on Your Own Kid by Taylor Swift.
I like
Um,
it.
if you listen to the lyrics of that song, I do feel like that was how I felt a lot growing up. And then eventually I'm like, yeah, I am on my own. I always have been, and I'm okay. Like, love.
And you're okay.
Yeah, and I'm okay and I can do that. What else? I also had a very big emo punk rock phase and still kind of do. And I feel like a lot of those songs from that era speak to me and who I am. Like
I
maybe
love it.
something by Taking Back Sunday, or yeah, I don't know exactly what song, but
That's
love
okay.
love those that era of music. And I'll think of maybe one more. My gosh, what do people this one also maybe is basic, but like what do I feel like not now, but Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, you know that
Oh
song like
yeah.
I don't
Yes, I
want
do.
the world to see me. I always felt like that. Now I don't really feel like that, but when I hear that song, I'm like back in that little girl Raimee, like, oh,
Yeah.
they wouldn't understand, but yeah.
Well,
Now I
because
don't
it's a
feel that
part of
way.
you. It's
Exactly,
still a
but it's
piece
still a
of
part of
you.
me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we take care of
Exactly.
our parts now differently that we know better and we like foster our inner
Yes.
child, but there's
Yes.
still parts of us that need nurturing. Like, I
Yes.
mean, yeah, I love that.
Hmm.
Um, Last but very much not least, what advice would you give for somebody who's struggling with not being able to find a therapist?
Oh, okay. I think you really need to be patient because it is frustrating. I think it can be frustrating and it can be expensive too to try out a bunch of different people. My best advice though is to make a list of questions that are most important to you and make sure that you like who your therapist is as a person or maybe their values. And I know you can't ask certain things, but you do typically get a 15-minute intro call with therapists. And I would make a list of questions that are important to you. And for example, like I wanted to make sure my therapist could help me with my fear of flying and how that might relate to other things. So I did ask her about, what techniques would you use to help me get over this? What are
Yes.
you specialized in that could relate to this? And just asking those things that are most important to you and how they view and approach things, I think can tell you a lot about whether or not it's going to work for you with them. And I would interview like a couple people. You get the 15-minute free intro call a bunch of people and see who you click with. I do think my first therapist, I was just so desperate to get one that I was like, we don't really click. I didn't really feel like a vibe. But my next,
Same.
the one that I ended up clicking with, I also asked her what her astrology sign was because I was like, okay, I'm a Virgo. Who do I get along with? And she was a Cancer,
Yes.
and I love Cancers. And I was like, okay, this just feels right. We're vibing. She's the right, like, so whatever it is to you, maybe it's not as
Yes.
woo woo as me, but yeah.
Oh no, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm a Leo and I'm like I need to
Oh, I
find the
love
person that's on the
Leos.
same, right? Yes, and
Yes.
Virgos and Leos get along so well. Like we're so
Yeah.
close in birth dates that it
Yes. I
works out
love
so
Leos.
perfectly.
You have the best hair, and I need that fire energy to my earth. So love it.
We're very fiery. We're very
Yeah.
fiery.
Which I need in my life, which is why I have so many Leo friends because of that.
I love that. I love that. Well,
Yeah.
I would love to work together in the future. I would love to make a packing video or whatever
Yes.
kind of video you want.
Oh, I'm so down. And I will come to Seattle at some point. So when I'm there, we'll hang out.
Yeah, let me know. And in the meantime, I
Yeah.
will send you my Amazon storefront link. I've got a travel
Perfect.
essentials store list, whatever thing I
Yay.
can't think of the name of that I at the moment that I will send you, which includes the vacuum bags. There's miscellaneous other shit in there, but the vacuum bags I think are the biggest tip that I saw that I was like, oh my God, this is the only thing I don't see in
Yeah,
Raimee's
I'm
videos.
so excited to order that. I'm so excited to order that.
Yeah, and they're like
Yay.
$12 and I think like $12. I mean, it's pretty damn cheap and they last I don't know,
Perfect.
5 to 10 trips.
Amazing.
Yeah, totally
Amazing.
worth it. I will
So
chat with
great
you
to
soon.
chat.
Well, I just loved having Raimee on the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope she comes back on the show in the future and we were talking about doing some packing videos or travel video tips together in the future. If you enjoyed this podcast and if you're enjoying the episode so far, please rate it 5 stars on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, work your shit out, not on other people. And we'll see you next time.